Good morning. It's headlines with Patriot News Network. Had to get a little pause there because my mouse was moving really slow. I have this fancy mouse here that's got all these little buttons, and if you hit this one right here, the cursor moves really slow. So I was trying to turn it off. Um, all right, man, we got some really good, interesting stuff to talk about this morning. So, yesterday, all the flights were grounded. Everybody, of course, took to social media, and all of the theories came out, right? So, I want to talk about that today. Do we know what the truth is? I don't know. No, we really don't. But we're gonna go with what we're being told at the moment until we figure it out, and we always do. So, Pete, but I don't even butt gig. Is this really disgusting? Is this really how you say it? Butt gig. All right. So he is investigating what is going on, and of course he didn't have any answers in the beginning. But the good news is we have an answer supposedly from our FAA, right? So they said what the problem was. Very simple. There was a damaged database file, right? So that's what they're saying was the issue. There was a damaged database file which caused this system to go down. Now, I do have a pretty big pending question on this. I thought the FAA and you got all these planes up in the air, and you can't really afford for the system to go down, right? I mean, you got some that are coming in, some are taking off. You got flight patterns crossing, within probably a couple hundred or maybe 1,000 feet, going around each other. So I would think you can't really afford for this thing to go down without causing some catastrophic things. Excuse me. You can't land a plane. Sorry, you can't land a plane or take off, right? Without this system. And like I said, you got some flying stuff going on. So it's very interesting. I thought there was a backup to a backup to a backup so that there wasn't any kind of problem like that. However, apparently one corrupted database file can take the whole thing down. So I'm going to go with I don't believe that. And there were a lot of military planes up in the air, more than normal, when this happened, which would probably go leaning more towards maybe a cyber attack. They put the planes up, military planes up, not knowing what was going to happen. I don't know. But again, that's just a theory that I have, right? So who knows if that is actually true. Okay. So we have, all right, jump back over to here. Let me blow this back up for you guys. Make it bigger for you so you can see it there. So we are celebrating 40 million Mexicans in the United States. So there are 40 million. That's including the people who were born in Mexico, who are the children of people who were born in Mexico. I'm not really sure where this, comes from, where the count comes from or not, but the president of Mexico was just happy to announce this with Joe Biden and Trudeau. So what is interesting about this to me is I don't really understand the whole push to, why wouldn't you want to stay in Mexico? Mexico's a beautiful, beautiful place. I've been to multiple cities there. Very gorgeous there. I don't know why you want to leave and come to America. Maybe the cartel issues. I don't know. At the Tuesday summit, Biden pushed for globalist pro-migration, a nation of immigrants, narrative that he described all Americans were all descendants of immigrants. So that's why everybody should just invade our country and we'll become overpopulated and we'll go broke. That's not really what he said, but that's where we're headed, right? So I just think it's very interesting that we are, and this, of course, is not including the 5 million illegal immigrants that we've had come in, right? So there's a huge population transfer from Cuba, Nicaragua, Haiti, Venezuela. And if you also saw I believe it was yesterday. Venezuelans are throwing their money all over the place. They found dumpsters with their money in it because now the country is pretty much broke, right? All right. So now there is some other new topic that is very good and very interesting to say the least, and a double standard. So here we have Mr. Joe Biden has now had more. So first he had some documents that got discovered in the Penn Biden place, right, at this university. So which is interesting because that actual building that was built there is at a college. I can't remember the one off the top of my head. And they got some money, about $42 or $52 million from anonymous Chinese donations at that college. And $1 million of it got kicked back to their University of Pennsylvania. There we go. Which is very interesting that the big guy got a kickback of $1 million when that happened. But I'll digress on that. So they found more documents, more classified documents. And of course, Biden is like, I don't know. I've got no clue. I don't know what these documents are. Like my son, I don't know anything about my son's business dealings or his laptop, or, he just plays the dumb game. He said his lawyers are handling it, and who pays for his lawyers, by the way? Is that us? Taxpayer? Nah. Anyway, so the White House press secretary, Jean Pierre, I can't imagine being her. Life's got to suck being her. She refused to comment on whether or not, he knew or didn't know or whatever. But here's the very interesting thing is, we are just now finding out about this 2 months after that this actually happened. Now, I want to bring you back to when Trump did it. Trump had a raid happen on Mar-a-Lago by the FBI and, turned that place upside down, went through his wife's drawers, all that stuff. But, Biden doesn't have to necessarily go through that particular thing. It's just not a necessity at this point. So, but of course, they will continue to counsel and to investigate Trump, make sure that they go after him. So that's really interesting that Merrick Garland is still naming a special counsel to investigate Trump over his documents, his things that were at Mar-a-Lago, but yet we're just kind of blowing off the fact that the vice president had 2 sets of classified documents, and he's just allowed to brush it off as, man, I didn't know they were in there. They were sitting in a closet. I have no idea how that happened. Isn't that weird? I don't know. Pretty weird. So World Economic Forum Davos is set for a record participation of 52 heads of states, and I believe around 300 government ministers are going to be taking place there from 52 heads of state. This is just disturbing, right? So you have the president of South Korea, you have the president of Colombia, you have the president of the Philippines. So this organization, folks, the World Economic Forum, is growing. It's growing. They also, I believe, have over 330 major corporations that will be attending this as well. I believe that's the number. It may be actually higher than that. So you have all that 1,500 folks, 1,500 private jets to send on Davos, carrying the globalist elite for climate talks, right? So you driving that car, your cow out in the pasture farting is causing damage to this earth. But the 1,500 private jets flying into Davos, those aren't doing anything. Don't worry about those, right? Don't worry about those. It's okay. Don't worry about that. The hypocrisy is insane, right? The hypocrisy is just through the roof. All right, so we got something very interesting here by CNN. Every once in a while, they stumble upon something and put something semi-decent out, right? The FDA vaccine advisors disappointed and angry that early data about new COVID-19 booster shots wasn't presented for review last year. So what they're saying is some vaccine advisors of the federal government are saying that they're disappointed and angry that the government scientists and the pharmaceutical, wow, that was tongue-tied for some reason, company Moderna didn't present a set of infection data on the company's new COVID-19 booster during meetings last year when the advisors discussed whether the shot should be authorized and made available to the public. So the data is suggesting that the possibility that the updated booster might not be any more effective at preventing COVID-19 infections than the original shots. Wow. So they're saying it's not any more effective, which of course we know after 60 days loses 90% of its efficiency, right? So U.S. taxpayers have spent nearly $5 billion on that new booster, and which has been given out to more than 48.2%. Now, the thing that's interesting about this is there's always contradicting data, right? Because I've seen some data saying that only 13% of the people are getting the jibby jab, right? And I'm sorry, the booster, right? So if we've got 380 million at 13%, that would, no, that would be right. That would be right. Hold on, I digress, right? 380 million at 13%. That would be 4.9 million people. 4.9 million. So that is incorrect. So again, I don't know. It's so hard to make sense of some of this stuff or try to pull some of it together because we just simply are always getting mixed numbers, mixed deals. But nonetheless, they're saying that they're angry to find out that there was data that was relevant to their decision that they didn't get to see. So now the FDA is saying, oh, well, we didn't get to see these documents. What's weird is people like me have been able to obtain these documents for the last year and a half. So how do you want to call it? However, we're getting this information, we're passing it around through to each other. So I have a question. How can somebody like myself get all these studies and all this paperwork that's from the companies, Moderna, Pfizer, BioNTech? How come I can get a hold of it, but the FDA saying, well, we didn't have it? Does that really make sense? Does that really seem like that's possible? I mean, I'm going to say I'm going to call BS on that, right? I just don't understand how they can sit here and say they didn't get to see it. They didn't receive this paperwork, but yet somebody like me I've had these studies for a year. I've got document after document, their documents, right? So it's just pretty mind blowing that they act like they have not been able to document. So what do I think they're doing? Well, it might be CYA is what I think they might be doing. All right, so the Satanic Temple presents Satan Con. So this is going to be in Boston, Massachusetts. Yep, Boston, Massachusetts, April 28th through the 30th. So this is their 10-year anniversary that these guys have been meeting. Sorry, I had to get a drink there. And here's what I thought was really interesting, right? This is happening in April. This is what I caught my eye. Satan Con attendees must be 18 or over, so that's good. At least they're not letting kids in there. Have proof of COVID vaccination. Attendees must wear an N95 or KN95 or disposable surgical mask. Gaiters, bandanas, and cloth masks will not be allowed. Well, I can't say that I'm upset that they're making sure y'all all have your jibby jab. For once, I think that's a group that probably should have. But I thought it was really interesting about the mask wearing, right? So, I mean, virtually nobody's wearing masks anymore. And not only that, what I did think was very interesting was they were like the N95 or, whatever, whatever I said, K and something, and no gaiters, no bandana. Well, why? I mean, we could wear gaiters and bandanas and cloth masks during COVID. That's what Fauci said. They were good enough for King Fauci, but it's not good enough for Satan Con. You can't make this stuff up, folks. You can't make this stuff up. All right. So now let's talk about the bill that was signed in, right? And this bill that Biden put in is going to require that was part of the infrastructure bill. And I am so sick and tired of us having something like an infrastructure bill or this bill or that bill. And there's always thousands of pages that have so much crap in it that doesn't pertain to it. If we are passing an infrastructure bill, the only dang thing that needs to be in there is infrastructure, right? How about fixing some of these dang potholes on the road? Because I feel like I'm going to lose my front end about 3 times a day, on these, or going across some of these bridges that I feel like are just going to collapse with me on it. But all cars in the United States that are new are going to be required to have a kill switch in them by 2026. So these were mandated in a recent infrastructure bill, allegedly to stop drunk drivers. Now, this is obviously presenting some concerns that were going to lead to government abuse, especially as organizations, including the World Economic Forum, are trying to advance the agenda against cars overall. They don't even want you to have a car, right? They want you to be they want you to walk, use pat and sand, right? Pat and bend, pat your knees, bend your feet, whatever. So meanwhile, the Supreme Court has ruled that the controversial, that's pertaining to that. But anyway, so I thought what was really interesting about this is, you think, okay, well, stop drunk driving. Okay, that's not a bad idea, right? That's not a bad idea. But then that raises a pretty serious question. How do you know that person's drunk? How exactly is that kill switch going to know that person is intoxicated? What technology is going to be in that car? Isn't it interesting? Everything that invades our right to privacy continuously comes at us under the guise of safety, right? It's always under the guise of safety. We're doing this for your safety. We're doing this for your protection. We're locking you down for your safety. We're closing your businesses for your safety. We're ruining your livelihoods for your safety. Now, I know that you may have the chance of catching this, and it may or may not take you out and unalive you, but we're going to ruin you and get your business closed down because you're going to go out of business because we locked it down. And then, you're going to lose everything you have. Hey, but you'll at least have your life, right? Yeah. Kill switches. No, right? But it's already been signed into law. So we'll see where that goes, right? So now I want to talk about something that is really getting me concerned. We had a blackout, right? There was a U.S. power grid that was under attack, right? I think there's been 122 attacks or something like that, more ever, right? So we've had people shoot at them, sabotage them, vandalize the electrical equipment at the power stations across the nation. In fact, during the first part of 2022, between January and August, there were a total, of 106 attacks on the electrical grid, which was the highest number record ever in a single year. Now, I didn't know attacks on the power grid was a thing that was happening a lot. But what was interesting is, oddly enough, there was another attack last week on a grid in Las Vegas that went completely ignored. completely ignored by mainstream media. Now, how can you tell me that the mainstream media is not controlled by a few corporations when something like a power grid that is attacked in Las Vegas, Nevada, and nobody talks about it, not even Las Vegas news, right? So it went completely unignored. It was last Tuesday, a 34-year-old man named Mohammed Messamaran, I think that's how you say it, who was born in Iran, conducted what could be described as a domestic terrorist action. So he rammed his Toyota Camry through the gates, went right into the solar power generation plant right outside of Las Vegas, and he set his car on fire, right? Set his car on fire. He tried to burn, blow up, whatever, this power grid, right? Very interesting. Very, very interesting that that was just simply ignored. It was ignored. I find that very odd, right? And especially with all the attacks going on, that should be something that they're warning the public about. Hey, if you see something strange, if you see, somebody driving around, whatever, but they're just ignoring it. Next headline, new documents expose White House's alleged social media censorship scheme targeting Tucker Carlson and other conservatives. So here is another deal where it is showing that the White House was pressuring Facebook to censor content, including a video by conservative media personality Tucker Carlson on the COVID-19 vaccines. And it was also, these documents were released January 9th and 10th by Louisiana Attorney General Jeff Landry and Missouri Attorney General Andrew Bailey, are part of a court order discovery process. So they did the Freedom of Information Act, right? In a lawsuit filed in May of 2022 by these two states to go after the Biden administration because they figured out that the Biden administration was colluding with big tech to silence people, to take away your First Amendment right, to take away your freedom of speech, to take away your voice if you dare go against the narrative, right? So this is exciting to see that maybe, possibly, something will come out of this. I'm not entirely sure. But what makes it even more interesting is, as the saga continues, Pfizer board member responds after his email shows that he pressured Twitter. Now, you have a CEO or a board member, a board member of Pfizer, and he was the former U.S. Food and Drug Administration commissioner. Now, folks, this is where stuff gets really ridiculous. So this guy used to be the FDA commissioner, the people that approve drugs. Now he sits on the board of Pfizer. So there were some emails that showed he was pressuring Twitter to censor posts, including one that accurately stated post-infection immunity is superior to be bestowed by COVID-19 shots from Pfizer's and other companies. So he said that he raised concerns with Twitter about the post that contained statements that he believed were purposely false and misleading. So because he thought they were misleading, then he had the power. I mean, how do you pick up the phone and call Twitter? Be like, yo, take this post down. I mean, we can't even get anybody to answer an email, but he could call up and get them to take it down. I mean, doesn't that seem like that would not be a very good thing for him to be able to do that? Doesn't that seem like this is just a good old boy club and we're not in it and we're getting lied to right and left, right? I mean, why would he do that, right? Because he felt it violated. So this is just him a way to cover his ass or try to cover his ass for what he was truly doing, which was silencing people that went against the agenda. All right, everybody loves this jackass, right? This is Mayorkas. He is probably, I can't even stand to listen to this guy talk. Mr. Senator, I don't, he is the worst DHS secretary I've ever seen, and I can't even stomach this guy, right? But they filed articles of impeachment for his atrocious border enforcement policies or lack thereof, right? So I honestly, though, I think this, once again, I think this is something they're throwing out there. I don't really see it going anywhere. I don't think they're going to impeach him. He doesn't have any intention, obviously, of stepping down at all. So it'll be interesting. However, last year, Kevin McCarthy did call to investigate and impeach Mayorkas multiple times when they asked for him to resign. So in November, McCarthy said that Mayorkas, if he didn't resign, Republicans would probe every order, every action, and every failure to determine whether they can begin impeachment inquiries. So this shouldn't be, with all intents and purposes, like this shouldn't be hard to prove that he did a horrible job and that he wasn't upholding the law. It is illegal to enter this country illegally, period. I like to break things down really simple, and they like to convolute and make things very muddy. So you just go like, oh, whatever. But it is illegal, flat out illegal, to come into this country illegally without going through the process. Period. End of sentence. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. No option A, option B, no multiple choice answers. It's illegal to enter this country without going through the process. Period. But that's not the way it seems these days, right? Here's something I found very interesting. The CDC Newspeak, this is a very interesting thing, right? So there's a Center for Disease Control and Prevention has released new standards on speech under what they call preferred terms, right? So this is how we want you to preferably talk, i.e., you better use these words or we're going to fire you, right? So this designates conventional language as offensive and establishes a new standard on speech for medical professionals in line with the social justice standards. So, I mean, is this like telling people how you can speak? Right? This is like telling people you may speak this way. You may say these things. And if you don't, well, then we're going to fire you or punish you or reprimand you. Does anybody see a problem with that? That presents a major problem. It sounds, I don't know. What does that sound like? Like a dictatorship, maybe? Yeah, like a dictatorship. Maybe sounds like communism. Yeah. So we are having all of the signs pointing to us, telling us, right, that we are headed towards communism. We are headed towards, well, socialism, then communism, right? We're being told how we can talk. We're being told that we can't talk. We're having our voices taken away, our social media accounts taken down. And then it just doesn't make any sense. I just really don't understand how we can see these things and not see the bigger picture. It just really is quite mind-boggling to me that this is even happening, right? Man. All right, so last one, facts matter, right? CEO is dumping 30 million vaccine doses. Woo. Global app to 100% track citizens and push to recalibrate free speech. I love how they use these these terms, right? Recalibrate. We're gonna tell you what you have the right to, what free speech rights you do have, right? So, as per usual, the meeting is intended by the global elites who, among other things, they're going to discuss ways to reshape our society for the better. Now, this is something in Davos we are not allowed to be part of. We only get to see and hear what video clips they put out. And these are people, 52 heads of states. Yes, those are people that are voted in, but there's also all these executives of these corporations that are putting their input in. I don't remember voting for them to tell me what's best for me. I don't really remember asking any of these politicians how to make a decision on what's best for me, but they do. They're going to set up more systems to control our lives. It may sound like a hyperbole, but it's not. Among these speeches that are given, one of them was the president of Alibaba Group, right, who bragged about the new system they're developing to measure an individual person's carbon footprint, right? So you buy stuff, they say, well, you buy this is this much of a carbon footprint, blah, 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 right? And this is also specifically by tracking your movements, your dietary habits, as well as your spending. So they're going to look at what you eat. They're going to look at where you go. Did you drive? Did you walk? Did you bike? How did you get there? This is all part of the same system that China uses on WeChat to give you a social credit score. And if you use too much of a carbon footprint, well, then you've been a bad little boy. We're going to turn your money off. We're going to turn that kill switch off on your car if you still have one. And you're going to sit at home until you reduce your carbon footprint. Furthermore, on the issue of spending, the president of the French Central Bank and the president of the Credit Suisse discussed how within the next 5 years, they will have up and running a central bank digital currency that can track and then even control what you and I purchase, which sounds like it might not go against an individual's human rights. But have no fear, because in another panel at Davos, an official from Australia came out and announced that we need to recalibrate what we mean by things like human rights and free speech. So I guess they're going to change up what human rights are, right? They're gonna tell us. Sorry, I forgot to blow that back up. They're gonna tell us what the human rights are that we should have, and then they're going to tell us what free speech we should have, right? And then like I was saying, by this tracking of what we spend, right, with the central bank, again, and this is going to happen, and let me tell you why. America's 31, 32 trillion in debt. By the time this is, new package goes through and the inflation will be 35 trillion in debt. The world is about 90 trillion in debt. Every single country is in debt, and everybody is in debt to the central banking system, which means once they say, okay, everybody pay up, let's go, give me my money, I want it now. We don't have that. Oh, so you defaulted on your loan, you're bankrupt. I now own you, which they already do, right? So the digital currency is coming. When they do this, we will have the cash you have will be worthless. They will probably take all your money out of the bank. The episode I did yesterday was about the collapse of the dollar. They are going to collapse the dollar. It is collapsing as we speak. And just like they did in India, one day you'll wake up and they'll go, well, you got 3 days to get to the bank and turn in your $500 and $1,000 rubles, or it's worthless at the end of 3 days. Well, 1.5 billion or 1 billion people trying to get to the bank in 3 days in cash. Well, guess what? About 95% of the country didn't get to trade it in. And guess what? In a couple of days, it became worthless. And there was nothing, nothing they could do about it. Nothing. They could not do anything about it. That's pretty crazy, isn't it? So this is all part of the reset. This is all part of the control. This is all part of the agenda. This is what the World Economic Forum is doing. This is what they're coming together to control. This is what all of those politicians and those business people are coming to do. They're coming together to control every aspect of our lives. And we're going to have to do what? You're going to say, well, I'm not doing that. Well, what are you going to do? You can resist it, but when you're starving to death, you don't have electricity, they come take your house away because you can't pay for it. They kick you out on the street if you're lucky and or not, that they don't throw you in a camp somewhere. And you're on the street, and I mean, what's next? What's next, right? We better figure out how to come together really fast, right? And better get good at gardening or green thumbing or whatever the case. But this is happening, folks. There's no way to avoid what they're going to do, because they are going to do what they're going to do, because they control all of these things. They control the finance system. They control the government. They control the industries. They control the corporations. Or the corporations really control the politicians, really? You know what I mean? Right? If every politician just on their suit had to wear who gave them money, that would be really cool, right? So you know who owns the politicians. But that's the shadow government, right? The shadow government is, in fact, the corporations that actually run this world, right? Their influence on the politicians and laws and how things are run, because they provide the money for the country, right? Excuse me. So I will see you guys here back at 3 p.m. for Just Thinking with Patriot News Network. Again, guys, share these videos, get us out there, help us grow. We're doing our best to give you all this information as fast and quickly as possible. We do put a lot of time and effort into this, so please like and share and help us grow these. I hope y'all have a wonderful day. Again, I know this is very tough to listen to something like this and then go, oh, well, yeah, okay, have a good day. But you have to remember, God is in control. And in the end, he wins, not these guys. They get to cause a lot of turmoil on the way out. They get to try to destroy everything, but they don't win. We got this. Put your head down and know we got this. This is just temporary, right? This life is just temporary. It's a little blip on the radar. God's got this. All right, y'all have a good day. I will see y'all at 3 o'clock.